A backyard chestnut can drop more nuts off the same patch of ground than the walnut everyone swears by, and it starts giving back years sooner. So why does that walnut still end up in nearly every yard? The answer is mostly habit, and it is quietly costing people a free food source. 9 nut trees beat the walnut for productivity, and hardly anyone plants them. Here is what I mean. A single black walnut is a magnificent tree, but you plant one, you wait somewhere between 7 and 15 years for a real crop, and then you spend every October fighting those green husks that stain your hands black and litter the whole lawn. Meanwhile, that same corner of your yard could be growing a tree that starts feeding you in half the time, needs less babysitting, and hands you nuts you can actually eat straight off the ground without a shop press. This list is for the gardener who thinks the way I do. Plant it once, take care of it for a couple of seasons, and then let it work for you for the next 30 or 40 years. Free protein, free food, coming back every single fall while you do almost nothing. And the tree sitting at number 5 on this list is the one I would plant first if I only had room for one, because it gives you the flavor of a fancy nut at a fraction of the weight. Stick around for that one. Before we start, one honest thing, because I respect you enough not to sell you fairy tales. Nearly all nut trees need a friend. They cannot pollinate themselves, so you almost always plant 2, not 1, or you plant near a neighbor who has the same kind. I will flag which ones need a partner as we go. If you catch value here, tap subscribe. This channel is all about growing free food on a budget, and there is a lot more coming. Number 9. The Korean pine. Let us start with the one nobody expects, because it does not grow a nut in a shell. It grows pine nuts. Those little sweet kernels you pay a small fortune for at the grocery store, $20 and $30 a pound, come out of pine cones on a tree you can grow in your own yard. The Korean pine handles zones 3 through 7, which matters most if you garden somewhere brutal. This tree laughs at cold. It survives winters that drop to 40 below. If you live up north where the walnut struggles and the almond would die in a week, this evergreen just keeps standing there, green all winter, quietly making food. Now the honest caveat, and it is a real one. The Korean pine is a patient investment. A seed-grown tree can take 15 or even 20 years to give you a serious harvest of cones. This is not the tree for instant gratification. But think of it like a savings bond you plant in the ground. You put it in for your grandkids as much as yourself, and it will feed a family for 100 years. Buy a grafted seedling if you can find one, because grafted trees bear a good deal sooner than seed-grown. Give it full sun and well-drained soil, and the one warning is simple. Do not plant it somewhere soggy. Pines hate wet feet, and root rot will take a young one fast. Picture the payoff, though. A pyramid of soft blue-green needles the size of a small house, dropping cones full of the same pine nuts you have been overpaying for your whole life. Number 8. The almond. If you garden somewhere warm, the almond belongs on your land. It grows happily in zones 7 through 9. It starts bearing in just 3 to 4 years, which is faster than nearly any walnut, and in early spring it covers itself in pink and white blossoms that look like a cloud settled on your yard. You get the flower show and the food from the same tree. The care floor is easy in the right climate. Full sun, well-drained soil, and a spot that does not stay wet. The one warning that trips people up is bloom timing. Almonds bloom very early, sometimes in late February, and a hard late frost will kill the blossoms and cost you that year's crop. So plant it in a protected spot, not down in a low pocket where cold air pools at night. And yes, you need 2. Almost every almond variety needs a second, different almond nearby to pollinate, so plan for a pair. Do that, and by year 4 you are cracking your own almonds off a tree that cost you less than a couple of bags from the store. Number 7. The butternut, and its tougher cousin, the buartnut. The butternut is a native North American walnut relative, sometimes called the white walnut, and it produces a rich, buttery sweet nut that many people prefer to the black walnut hands down. It shrugs off cold down through zone 3, which makes it one of the most cold-hardy nut trees you can grow, and it starts bearing in roughly 3 to 5 years. That is less than half the weight of a black walnut in a lot of yards. There is a catch worth knowing. Pure native butternuts have been hit hard by a fungal disease called butternut canker, so on its own the wild tree can be short-lived in some regions. The smart move for a home grower is the buartnut, a hybrid cross between the butternut and the Japanese heartnut. Think of it like breeding a hardier, more disease-resistant version of a beloved old apple. You keep the buttery flavor but gain a much tougher, longer-lived tree. Give it full sun and deep soil, and plant it away from your vegetable garden. Because like all walnut family trees, it releases a compound from its roots that stunts tomatoes and a few other crops nearby. Keep that spacing right, and you get decades of sweet, easy cracking nuts. Number 6. The Shagbark hickory. This one is a legacy tree, plain and simple. The Shagbark hickory grows across zones 4 through 8. It is native to a huge chunk of the country, and the nut it drops is, to a lot of people, the best-tasting nut in North America. Sweeter than a pecan, richer than a walnut, and completely free once the tree matures. You will recognize it by the bark, which peels off in long, shaggy strips like an old barn that needs painting, which is exactly how it earned its name. Now, patience is required, and I will not pretend otherwise. Hickories are among the slowest nut trees to start, often 8 to 10 years before a real crop. It earns its spot anyway, because once it starts, it produces for well over a century with almost no care from you. No spraying, no fussing. It is the kind of tree a person plants not just for themselves but as a gift to whoever owns that land next. Full sun, room to grow big, and the one warning is that it has a deep taproot, so plant it young and plant it where you want it forever. Hickories do not like being moved. Get it in the ground once, and generations of squirrels and grandchildren will thank you. Number 5. The Hican. Here is the standout I promised you at the top, and now you see why. The Hican is a natural hybrid between a hickory and a pecan, and its name is just those two words smashed together. It is like the garden took the two best native nut trees and had them meet in the middle. You get much of the rich hickory flavor combined with the earlier, more reliable bearing of a pecan. Certain varieties, like the McAllister Hican, start producing in as little as 3 to 4 years, which for a hickory-type tree is almost unheard of. It grows across zones 5 through 9, so it suits a big swath of the country. Full sun, deep, well-drained soil, and give it space, because this becomes a large, handsome shade tree on top of feeding you. The one caveat, and you will hear this theme all through the list, is pollination. Hicans and their pecan relatives usually do best with another compatible tree nearby to set a full crop, so do not plant a lone one and expect miracles. The reason I would plant this first is the balance. You are not waiting a decade like a straight hickory, you are not limited to the warm-only zones like a pure pecan, and you get a nut that tastes like something special. That is a rare combination, and hardly anyone at the garden center will ever mention it to you. If you are getting ideas for your own yard from this, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It genuinely helps this little channel keep making these free food guides, and I have got a whole lineup of them coming. Number 4. The pecan. You already know the pecan from pies and holiday tables, but you may not know just how much food one mature tree throws off. A grown pecan is a giant, and in a good year a single healthy tree can drop well over 100 pounds of nuts. That is not a snack. That is groceries. It grows best in the warmer zones, roughly 6 through 9, and it wants long, hot summers to ripen a full crop. So this is a southern and lower Midwest tree at heart. The honest part is the weight and the size. A pecan can take a good many years to hit full production, and it grows into a truly massive tree, so this is not a plant for a tiny lot. You need real room. Full sun, deep soil that holds moisture, and the one warning is that pecans are hungry and thirsty when young, so they need steady water for the first few years to get established. Plant 2 different varieties for good pollination, give them a big open spot, and picture the reward. Decades down the road, you are hauling in buckets of pecans every fall from a tree you paid for once. Compare that to buying pecans at holiday prices, and the math is not even close. Number 3. The Heartnut. The Heartnut is a variety of Japanese walnut, and it solves the single biggest complaint people have about the black walnut. The black walnut is a nightmare to crack and stains everything it touches. The Heartnut, by contrast, cracks cleanly, often popping into 2 neat heart-shaped halves, which is where it gets its name. The flavor is milder and sweeter than a black walnut, closer to a butternut, and children who will not touch a bitter black walnut will happily eat these. It grows across roughly zones 5 through 8 and bears in about 3 to 5 years, once again beating the black walnut's long wait by a wide margin. Give it full sun and deep soil with good drainage. The one warning matches its relatives. It is a walnut family tree, so it puts that same growth-suppressing compound into the soil, meaning you keep it away from your vegetable beds and your fruit trees. Plant it off on its own at the edge of the property. It becomes a wide, spreading shade tree that also happens to rain down easy-cracking, sweet nuts every fall. For anyone who gave up on walnuts because of the mess, This is your redemption. Number 2. The hazelnut, also called the filbert. Now we get to my favorite for the small yard, the one that beats the walnut for so many people. The hazelnut does not grow as a towering tree that takes over your whole lot. It grows as a bush, usually 8 to 12 feet tall, which means you can plant it along a property line, use it as a hedge, or tuck it into a corner where a walnut would never fit. It grows across zones 4 through 8, and it starts giving you nuts in just 3 to 4 years. According to home orchard growing guides, a hazelnut can keep producing for 40 to 50 years once it gets going, and it stays a manageable size the whole time. The care is genuinely low. Full sun to part shade, decent soil, and not much else. The one warning is that hazelnuts absolutely must cross-pollinate, and they cannot do it with their own pollen, so you have to plant at least 2 different varieties near each other, or you will get a pretty bush and no nuts. Think of them like dance partners. One alone just stands there. 2 together, and the whole thing works. Get that right, and every fall you are gathering handfuls of hazelnuts off a bush the size of a lilac. No ladder required, no giant tree shading out your whole garden. For a budget grower in a normal-sized yard, that is close to perfect. Number 1. The chestnut. And here is the tree that started this whole conversation, because pound for pound off the same patch of ground, and starting years sooner, the chestnut is the one that truly outclasses the walnut for a home grower. According to a chestnut production and economics analysis, a chestnut begins dropping nuts as early as year 5 and produces annually for more than 60 years. It grows across zones 4 through 8, and it does something almost no other nut tree does. It gives you a nut you barely have to process. You roast a chestnut, you do not crack a stubborn shell with a hammer. But the real magic is what it feeds. A chestnut is a starchy nut, more like a grain than a fatty nut, which historically made it a staple food that carried whole villages through winter. It is calories in the ground, renewing itself every fall, free. Give it full sun and, this is the one warning that really matters, well-drained, slightly acidic soil. Chestnuts hate heavy wet clay and will rot in it, so if your ground stays soggy, plant on a mound or a slope. And yes, plant 2, because they need a partner to set a good crop. Do that, and by year 5 you are raking up chestnuts by the bucketful from a tree that will outlive you and keep on giving the whole time. So there they are. 9 nut trees, and every one of them earns its place over the walnut. Everyone defaults to, whether by feeding you sooner, asking less of you, fitting a smaller yard, or handing you a nut you can actually eat without a fight. Here is what I want you to take away, because a list like this can feel overwhelming. Do not try to plant all 9. Pick 1, maybe 2, that match your zone and the space you have. If you are up north and short on patience, the hazelnut. If you have room and want the biggest payoff, the chestnut or the Hican. Plant them this fall, water them through their first couple of summers, and then let them go to work for the next 30 or 40 years. Remember, most of them want a partner for pollination, so plant a pair, and remember the walnut family trees want distance from your vegetable garden. Picture it. A cool October morning a few years from now, coffee in your hand, and a bucket filling up with nuts you did not pay a cent for, off a tree you planted once. That is what free food looks like when you plant it on purpose. The walnut is fine, but it was never your only choice, and now you know the ones nobody bothers to tell you about. If this gave you something to plant this season, there are plenty more free food gardening guides on the channel. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.